Before we start our report, may we ask you two questions. First, how far will you go in the midst of hopelessness? Second, to whom will you lay your trust in difficult times? These questions will serve as a guide as the story goes on. So now let us move on to the story itself or the novel. This novel that we will be discussing is about a science fiction entitled War of the Worlds. This book was published in 1898 and it has two parts. The first is The Coming of the Martians and the second part is The Earth Under the Martians. And this book has an unnamed narrator which makes the novel very intriguing. The War of the Worlds has four genres. The first one is science fiction, second is war drama, third is adventure, fourth horror. As the story goes on, you will find out why there are four genres in the novel. And now I will introduce you to the great mind behind the novel, and he is Herbert G. Wells or H. G. Wells. He was an English writer in many genres including novel, history, politics and social commentary, textbooks and even rules for war games. He is now best remembered for his science fiction novels and was called the father of science fiction along with Jules Verne and Hugo Gernsback. His most notable science fiction works include Our Report, The War of the Worlds, The Time Machine, The Island of Dr. Moreau, and The Invisible Man. So now, let's move on to the literary map.
Let us now proceed to the literary map of the War of the Worlds. We are going to tell the story according to the cylinders and stars that had fallen on Earth. First cylinder. The first falling star was seen early in the morning of June, rushing over Winchester eastward and had a greenish streak behind it. A metal cylinder landed on the Horsell Common and was almost entirely buried in sand and had a diameter of about 30 yards. After several days, a Martian emerged from the cylinder. It is a big, grayish, rounded bulk, the size of a bear, with two large, dark-colored eyes and a rounded head and face. As it emerged, it used its tentacles to grip the cylinder and another that swayed in the air. The thing or the Martian has a peculiar V-shaped mouth with its pointed upper lips, absence of brow ridges, and chin beneath the wedge-like lower lip. It breathed with difficulty and painfully because the atmospheric pressure here on our planet is maybe higher than than Mars. Its skin is oily brown. People thought that these Martians are inferior to humans but as intelligent as them. So they tried to communicate with the Martians through white flags that they flattered in the hopes that they understand them. However, Martians didn't do any response to it. Second cylinder. The crowd in the Chertsey Road walking saw a star fall from heaven to the pine woods to the northwest after Friday midnight. And this fallen star is the second cylinder that has landed on Addlestone golf links. It was being shelled in the hope of destroying it before it opened due to the incident that had happened as when the first cylinder opened and people died because of heat ray. The Oriental College burst into smoky red flame, the tower of the little bridge beside it slid down into ruins, and the pinnacle of the mosque vanished due to the Martian heat ray. So the soldiers were not able to prevent the Martian's heat ray. Because this story is narrated by an unnamed narrator, he observed that his house is shaking. At first, he thought that it was just only an earthquake, but after seeing that the Oriental College was in ruins, he decided that he and his wife will go to Leatherhead to be safe. However, he decided that he will just leave his wife to his cousin, and he will return to Maybury to witness the excitement brought about by the Martians. And it also, the Martians, third cylinder. Third cylinder fell in Pierford after Saturday midnight. Soldiers and guns were already in standby along the gate of a field at Addleston, where the second cylinder landed. 6 12-pounders were standing neatly at equal distances pointing towards Woking. So, because of the death of many people due to the heat rays of the Martians, people feel threatened and they started to move from Weybridge. Then the Martians and the soldiers started to fight each other. 4 of the armored Martians appeared at Weybridge and stride hurriedly towards the river. Then there came the 5th. A Martian struck the town with heat ray. 6 guns, which is unknown to anyone on the right bank, had been hidden behind the outskirts of Shepperton village, fired simultaneously. The first shell burst 6 yards above the hood of the Martian that killed it. So, the Martian inside the tripod was killed, and he collapsed on the river, and he slowly submerged in it. The other 2 Martians stooped over their ruined comrade. Then the generators of heat rays waved high, and the hissing beams smote down everywhere that caused houses to crash. Trees, fences, and sheds were on fire. After the death of one of the Martians, they retreated to their original position upon Horsell Common. Because the Martians are like invincible, and their heat ray is deadly. 4th cylinder. A brilliant green meteor fell, which is the 4th cylinder, was seen in Bushy Park. By Monday morning, people fled or filled the trains for escape. However, engine drivers and stokers refused to return to London because there is total chaos in London and Martians are already in London. Everyone took different roads to flee or escape the place in order to survive from the Martians. However, a cloud of slowly sinking black vapor drove along the Thames and across the flats of Lambeth, cutting off all escape over the bridges. This black vapor was what the Martians discharged, and this is poisonous, that anything that it touched will be killed. Because many people fled, there are also many people who started to die or suffer from starvation. People became desperate of escaping, that some tried to cross the sea to another country or island where there is safety, while others are already plundering food. Everything is in total chaos, and the Martians keep on advancing. In Book 1, we have known how powerful and deadly Martians is. And now, let us see how, up to what extent will the Martians go on killing people and inflicting harm, danger, and fear to everyone. So now, let us go to the Book 2 of the War of the Worlds, The Earth Under the Martians. The Martians already dominated London and other parts of England. The narrator observed that a Martian pursued 4 of 5 persons, and it didn't use the heat ray or destroy them, but it picked them up one by one and tossed them into the great metallic carrier behind it. We can remember that on Book 1, the narrator related that the Martian's tripod has a like a gigantic fisherman's basket behind it, and he saw that the Martians picked up those person and tossed it on that gigantic basket. Eighth star, or the fifth cylinder. Fifth cylinder landed on Shin, where the narrator and the curate is hiding in one of the houses in there. And unfortunately, the cylinder landed beside the house where the curate and the narrator is hiding. So they are trapped inside. And the fifth cylinder opened and the mechanism was busy in the excavation. This mechanism is also called as handling machine. It presented a sort of metallic spider with 5 jointed, agile legs and with an extraordinary number of jointed levers, bars, and reaching and clutching tentacles about its body. The narrator and the curate observed everything about the Martians, what they are doing, what they are trying to plan. So, in several days, they are trapped inside without few food that they have rummaged in the pantry that is also destroyed when the cylinder landed there. The curate is already on the verge of insanity, and the narrator is trying to fight whatever sanity is left on him. Wreckage. After the short invasion of the Martians that lasted only for 3 weeks, London and other parts of England was in ruins. Millions of people died. Help from other countries came. The whole world was concentrated on England, particularly the places that have been ruined by the Martians. Then the narrator was once again reunited from his wife, who has survived together with his cousin from the attacks of the Martians. The bodies of Martians were examined. People were already returning to their homes, though they still haven't yet recovered. Slowly, London is recovering from the catastrophe they had witnessed. Then the narrator also said that maybe Martians went to Venus, that maybe will give them a bigger chance of living. He also said that if the Martians can go to other planets, so is our race, our human race. We can also go to, there is a chance that we can also go to other planets and travel from one planet to another. On the first part of the book, the narrator described that the Martians went in our planet because their planet, Mars, is already on the verge of destruction.
Based on our additional readings, this novel, The War of the Worlds, is a futuristic story, not in a sense that we will be invaded by the Martians or the extraterrestrials, because I think that's very far from reality. And this story is not about machine invasion or Martian invasion in Earth. Instead, it's a story about a modernized world of machines like what we have today. It has been said that H.G. Wells was inspired by Charles Darwin or his Darwinian context. And if you'll read this book, I must admit that at first it was very boring. But if you continue reading, you'll find the essence of the book, not only being scientific, not only being a science fiction book, but the deeper meaning of this novel, or The War of the Worlds. And also, you will notice the depiction of science and religion, especially when the narrator was talking to the curate. He was telling the curate that your religion or religion will never save us in times of this invasion, this calamities, this destruction, because there's no exempted. When this adversity comes, when an adversity comes, there's no one exempted on that case. So here is our analysis of the novel. In times of destruction or natural calamities, people should be united to overcome this. And the story is not only for machines or technologies, it can also be about the natural calamities that we experience or we will experience in the near future. What do you think will be the tool for survival in times of destruction? Of course, it's unity, because without it, no one will outlive. Second, be aware of your environment and the people around you. Third, Martians can also be a representation of technology that slowly invades people and their lives. We can also notice that nowadays, people were being invaded by the technology. Modern technology and gadgets everywhere. If we let them fully invade us, it will lead to harm or even our own destruction. We all know the consequences of it, right? And also, this novel tells us that even though there's no exception when it comes to calamities, let us be reminded to lay our trust to God without ever waiting for answers, because His helping hand will come unnoticed. So, those are our analysis of the novel. So here is our teaching implications. We have decided that this book is for students in grade 6 to 8 level because some parts of the novel is very hard to comprehend and some parts were brutal and not suitable for young ages. If we will be including this book on our lesson plan, we will let our students do two things. First is they should make a slogan about the greatest weapon human beings can use in face of adversity. It can be material things, it can be feelings or emotions, whatever they like. Second is make a formal theme about first, your greatest fear in life and what will you possibly do to overcome it. Second, the importance of emotion or feelings in one's life, because as we read the book, we have noticed that the narrator and also the antagonist or the Martians in the book has no emotions. It's purely scientific. So, this formal theme will help them explore about their emotions after reading the book and what they have discovered from themselves. So, thank you for listening to our report, and we hope that you learn a lot from what we have reported today.